Welcome to the Freedom CEO podcast. It's about becoming the chief decision maker over your life in order to step into a life of freedom. From business, health, wealth, charity, and giving back to just doing life on your own terms. I am your host, Shay Invidiata. I am an award-winning activist, change maker, and a multifaceted impact entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in business, philanthropy, and health and wellness. In this space, I'm going to be bringing you insights, not just from me, but from incredible thought leaders around the globe to help you start making decisions towards living a life of freedom so you can live a life you love. Are you ready, guys? Because we are going all in. What self-limiting beliefs do you have that is holding you back from living your highest potential? I've got them, and so do you. In today's episode, I sat down with certified clinical hypnotherapist, spiritual facilitator, and entrepreneur, Dana Shalit, to discuss the power of the mind and how our subconscious thoughts can be steering our life in a different direction than we planned. Dana brings her years of experience from running an event production company, a charity for over a decade, and being a top sales leader with a global brand. Dana excelled as a coach and speaker with a passion to support others on their self-growth journey. Trust me, Dana brings the heat in this episode. You are going to love it. Are you ready? Let's dive in. When I think of living the freedom lifestyle, there are very few people that pop into my mind, but Dana, you are certainly one of them. And I am so excited to have you on the show. And if you are not following Dana, you need to follow this girl. You are going to, trust me, by the end of this episode, you're going to be blown away. And she's going to be bringing so much value today. So I am so excited to have you on the show, on the Freedom CEO podcast. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor.
And it's so exciting. Like, you have this remarkable journey. And before we dive into it, I would love for you to share a bit of your story. You've done so many different things. One of the things that I love most about Dana, not just as an entrepreneur that you are, but we align on a heart level, and both of us are very impact driven. And so we're always looking for how can we bring purpose into the work that we do. And so before we kind of talk about, freedom lifestyle, freedom of finances, location freedom, who is Dana? Give us the little journey.
Well, I guess the best way I could describe it would be to say that I'm a multi-passionate entrepreneur. And I have moved through many careers in my lifetime, but I would say that the theme has always been, like you, Shay, sort of an inner journey for the outer world. So I always say inner peace is the path to world peace. Inner power is the path towards outer power. And so looking back at my journey, I've went through starting an event production company, very young, producing really large scale events, starting to concentrate on the philanthropic world, moving into running a charity, then becoming a top sales leader with an international social marketing company. And then now to finding myself as what I like to say, a coach of the conscious mind and a creator of the subconscious therapy. So I like to create, conscious coaching, subconscious therapy as a process for supporting others and removing their own limiting beliefs so that they can create their ultimate life.
I love it. I love it. And, starting in Toronto as your home base, and it's wild that we're actually both sitting in Costa Rica today, calling this place our home base.
That's right.
And, I want to share a story because I think, part of our conversation today and where I really want people to see like what is available to them. And I really feel that you mirror this, not just like I said, not just freedom of finances, but like in everything you are doing, it's really this lifestyle. And I'm going to, unpack some of this and ask a couple questions of you today, but a story that nobody really actually knows. And you and I both were like major travelers. If you don't follow Dana already, pre-COVID, I think I travel a lot. You know, I'm usually on a plane going for work or something like that every, 6, 8 weeks. And, watching your Instagram was like, God, this girl travels maybe more than I do, and calling it work, but also for play at the same time and finding this balance. But watching that you are moving around the world and you're making money somehow, because you're able to travel and go and do this. And in January of 2021, you had just come to Costa Rica. I believe you were visiting your cousins. And I had popped into the country because I was looking for land at the time. I wanted to come and purchase something. And I was here for 10 days. You and I both were not able to connect because we were like 7 hours apart. And I went back to Canada. And I remember you had posted probably, I think it was at the end of January or like mid-Feb, that you had decided that you were going to stay, that you weren't going back to Toronto because, from your original plan was to come here for a visit. And you're like, I'm guys, I'm not leaving. I don't know when I'm coming back, but I know I'm not going. And I remember looking at your post and going, she's so lucky that she's able to live this lifestyle. And that was the human voice in me. And then the Shay in me and my, the front part of my brain going, there is no difference. The only difference between Dana and yourself is that Dana has decided and she's made different choices to align with the lifestyle that she is wanting to live. And you have not. And you have this laundry list of things that, yes, they can be seen as obstacles and they are real things, right? Like from having a career back home, having family back home, having a house back home, all of these things that can be very challenging, but they either become the excuse for why you're not living the life you keep dreaming about, or you find the way to make it happen and you create solutions out of them. And I do. I remember being like, I'm going to decide, like Dana did this. Why can't I? It's available for me. And I would love for you to share, like obviously fast forward, I moved to Costa Rica in September. And I think subconsciously after having that conversation, looking at the decisions you had been making for the life that you wanted, I was like, yeah, like if not now, like when? Right? Like, when are you going to start living the life you want? And I think that's really hard for a lot of people. And I would love for you to kind of unpack in your own journey. When did you decide you wanted to structure your life differently?
Yeah, I think it's been a journey, as it always is, right? So first of all, I have to say kudos to you because you took an experience where you looked at another and you said, I wish, if only. And instead of moving into victimhood, you said, oh no, wait a second, I'm the creator. Why not me? And I think that's always been my mantra is why not me? That, if other people are doing it, then the same opportunity could be available to me. And it's from the mindset that, I am not special and I am extremely special, right? As we all are. I will say it hasn't been a straightforward journey, right? I came here on vacation. The world kept shutting down. I was here with my dog, and then I literally couldn't get home for several months, and I had to keep jumping houses, and so it wasn't. We always look at that highlight reel on social media and we think it's this if only. And I would say that it was one of the more challenging times of my life. And the contrast, it holds the beauty, right? It's like those bittersweet moments where I was living the most fulfilled moments of my life, the most inspiring, and at the same time, holding some of the darkest times, holding some of the biggest fears and discomfort of, moving my entire place in Canada on FaceTime, putting everything into storage, selling all my stuff, my car, my Peloton, all this stuff just got sold from here over there. So it wasn't, one of my favorite quotes is courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act in spite of it. And I think that is really what it's been about, feeling the fear and doing it anyways. And, connect every day, taking time to go inwards and really just check like, how do I want to feel? If I want to feel free, then it's up to me to curate opportunities around me that cultivate those same feelings of freedom.
Totally. And so like, what would you say, like when you say curating those opportunities around me for you, like what does that look like? And Costa Rica is just one example of you living out your own ethos and your own mantras for yourself. But there was a time where you were living in LA for the winters and coming back to Toronto. And there's a big, how does she do that? Right? Like a lot of people watching people who live this way, they go, how do they do that? And so when you talk about these opportunities, what you look for, fill us in on the how. Like what?
Yes,
what is
fair enough. So the secret is to feel the fear and do it anyways, to know that regardless, you're going to end up, landing on your feet, that even when the worst has happened, and it has happened to me in my humble opinion, I've had some really dark moments of life, that we continue to land on our feet. We're resilient beings. And so I think the process for creating the life that you desire is sort of the process of first tuning inwards and then really starting to remove the layers of what you actually want, and then look at what limiting beliefs you have in place and that stop you from believing that it's possible from you, right? So most of our limiting beliefs live in our subconscious mind. And as you know, Shay, I'm obsessed with the subconscious mind. So I'm not building my life from the 5% of my conscious mind that is, only thinking of the how and the what and the, all of that. I'm often going into my subconscious mind through meditation, through mindfulness. I spend time every day, removing the layers so that I can go back to a place of why not me? I have a desire for a reason. This is the next step I can take, followed by the next step, and fill myself with hope, faith, and trust that I'm going to be okay, that it's all going to work out as it should. Does that answer your question?
Kind of, yes, kind of. And, you just said something else interesting. Like, I always think about it from like the other end. Like you use this word layers, like unpacking the layers in your daily practice. Like, I would love for you to share that in a tangible way. Like, is this through journaling, writing? What are you writing? Like meditation, like unpack some of those layers for me.
Totally. And I think all of us are, it's up to us to create the right disciplines, routine, habits that bring us back towards our highest self, right? That bring us back to be anchored in ourself. To go back to your question, how did I get here? How did I build this? I literally got on a plane. I know you and I used to laugh about that. I didn't think too much. I messaged my cousins. They told me they had a place here. I jumped on an airplane. I brought my dog and I landed here not having any idea how it was going to go. So that was the how. I didn't know how, and I just took one step towards it. In terms of the habits and disciplines that I curate every day so that I can really curate confidence within myself and discipline, for me, it's morning routine and evening routine. So how I start my day and how I end my day. When we go into sleep mode, we move into the brain waves that move us into the subconscious mind, right? So we're operating in the 5% of the conscious mind most of the day. In the morning, when we first wake up, we're really suggestible, really receptive. We're in the subconscious mind. And as we go to sleep, we're in that state as well. So for me in the mornings, a great book to read is Morning Miracle. Is that what it's called? Morning Miracle. I may be screwing it up a little bit. And I start my day with, I wake up, I meditate, I move. For me, it's walking and Pilates. I write in my gratitude journal 10 things I'm grateful for. Maybe I'll just keep writing if I'm feeling inspired, and I'll read. I'm a massive reader. I read every single morning. And so I get up at 5, 6 in the morning, and the first hour of my day minimum is dedicated to those practices. And the same before I go to sleep. I change the lighting. I put on music. I light incense. I read. I fill my mind with positivity. I review the good things that happened in the day versus all the problems that I've been dealing with. I review the good things and I set intentions before I go to sleep in terms of what I want to create next. So again, I think a lot of times people concentrate on that morning routine, but I would say that that evening routine and how you go to sleep and what you put into your mind as you're falling asleep is equally as important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I say often, you can't control what happens in your day, but you can control the bookends, the morning and the evening, how you start, how you end your day. And it is so important, right? You're creating that energy for what you want to bring into your day. And if things happen that we can't control, you got to shake it off at the end of the night, and you don't want to go to sleep that way. So having that evening routine to reflect, to release, and also to press reset, like you said, like setting these intentions. And I think it's so interesting that you shared how the morning when we first wake up, and then when we're kind of in that dozy state, like we're ready to go to sleep, that we're really the most impressionable, therefore we're the most moldable. And many people who not just even have gratitude practices, but have like affirmation practices, right? Which is also setting intentions. It's extremely important when we're wanting to maybe retrain some of the things that we think about and how we view ourselves. And, we are not our thoughts, but there's a fine line there, right? Because what you think about frames your beliefs, and whatever you believe, you end up taking action on. And therefore, that action, whether it's habitual in a routine or how you look at yourself in the mirror, you live that out. And so our thoughts are so important. And I love that, that you had brought that up about the morning and the evening, because that's very similar to my routine, but also the things I'm trying to reframe. And some of that is these limiting beliefs. So I hear oftentimes from people, and I've experienced this myself, where, you look at somebody else and you go, that's only reserved for them, or that's only available for other people, or I'm not good enough and therefore I can't have, or I'll never be able to, right? Like all of these thoughts, and we're all human, we've all had them. But the more that we can recognize that this is a limiting belief that is prohibiting us from actually stepping into the life that we're wanting to live and we deserve to live, if we know what tools to use and when to use them, we can start to reframe the pattern, this pattern of thoughts, and we can start changing those thoughts and therefore changing our lives. I would love to hear, because if you guys, are listening to Dana for the first time, she's also a hypnotherapist. And so when she says she's obsessed with the subconscious, Dana has spent a lot of time in training and doing sessions on clients and being in this space. And so when we start talking about overcoming limiting beliefs, I would love for you to share your advice on a great practice to be able to do that. And maybe even just sharing some of your own personal experience of overcoming limiting beliefs.
For sure. Well, I would say that there are 5 main limiting beliefs that we all work our way through. The first is, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, I'm not lovable, what I want is not available to me, and I don't belong. Those are the 5 main limiting beliefs that on some level really stand in our way from achieving whatever it is that we want to achieve. And if you think about how we come into this world, a complete, expressed, confident, energetic soul. And we come in and we think we're going to, as soon as we start to be able to talk and express, we want to be astronauts and we want to be singers and we have all these beliefs and ideas of what we could create and how we can let our unique expression come outwards. And then something happens somewhere between the ages of 2 and 8 that inserts that self-limiting belief. You want to be an astronaut? You're not worthy of being an astronaut. You want to, have that dream relationship? You're not lovable enough to be able to be in a dream relationship. You want to be a millionaire? You're not worthy of making millions. All of those thoughts, whether someone says it to us or whether something happens, whether we fail or don't achieve at the level we thought we should be achieving at, they start to creep into our subconscious, and then that energy is stored in our body. Right. So that energy gets sort of lodged in the body. So we come in energetic beings, energy is flowing, moving, no problems. And then something happens and the energy gets blocked. In some religions or theories, it's called a samskara. Just imagine it like dense energy stuck in your body. So our job is to essentially move and remove the blocks on the way, on the way to becoming whole again. So it's not about becoming anything. It's about unbecoming everything we are not. You've probably heard that phrase before. A job is not to seek for love, but to find and look within ourselves to find all the barriers that we have built against it. Right? Another Rumi quote. So it's about unblocking ourselves again. So really common to have those limiting beliefs. It's what we're all working with. Remind me of the second part of your question.
I would love for you just to share in like your own personal journey. And that can be any time where you recognized you had a limiting belief. And by overcoming that, that's been a pivotal moment in your life to change things.
Well, I think there was many moments in my life where I started to feel like there must be something else out there for me. And when after I was producing events for about a decade and I started to wanting to leave behind the hustle culture, I found the social marketing industry and I moved into a sales role as a brand ambassador for an international brand. And what was so interesting about this experience is that in this company, everybody started with the same tools, the same ability to cultivate wealth. It was very much up to us. And I watched all these for the first, year or two of my business. I watched all these other people have success and I couldn't figure out why I wasn't successful. What was standing in my way to really achieve what I want to achieve. See, often we know what we need to do in order to get it done. Like we know what we need to do in order to have our dream body. We know what we need to do. We just don't do it, right? We don't eat the way we need to. We don't exercise the way we need to. And when it comes to sales in that context, I wasn't talking in the way I needed to talk to. I wasn't putting myself out there. And I became obsessed with the personal development world. And I started to dive deep into books and reading. And that's when I discovered for myself that I had an underlying belief that I, as myself, was not enough to achieve the success that I wanted. And so, when you have that belief, when you notice it, and I did it through subconscious work. So that's what I do as a hypnotherapist. I welcome people into my office. We sort of clear the residue of some of the beliefs by looking at when did the energy get stuck in the first place? Where was the first time this pattern, began? And so for me, learning, just bringing awareness to the belief, I am not enough. I made that up when I was 7 as an immigrant child moving to Canada. And I felt different. Like it was never going to happen for me, but I'm not that kid anymore. Right. And so once you start, right, I'm not that kid. You're not that kid. We're not that person. I know that I am unique and perfectly special and perfectly not special as well. But why not me? And so one of my favorite tricks, and I think you answered this earlier, is that one little thing I love to do is once I bring awareness to the limiting belief, I notice it come up in my mind. I'm not enough. I'm never going to have what I want. And I will literally imagine a keyboard where I say, delete, 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 delete. And then I will create a new belief. I am worthy, whole, and complete. Absolutely everything I desire is available to me. Why not me? I work hard. I'm willing to do the work. I am passionate about the work. This is my destiny. Enter, 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 enter. So that's just a fun little visualization that you can do that's helped me through many reprograms of my own mind.
I love that. And visualization is so powerful. And knowing you, I'm sure you also put that pen to real paper, not typing it out, because there is science behind that as well. But it is so powerful, to be visualizing and putting it into the universe.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And it's important to spend time in our subconscious mind. You're creating these most of us create these visualizations while we're still in our conscious mind. And in our subconscious, the 95%, if you can imagine a glacier, only the top 5% is above the peak of the water. The rest is in the subconscious underneath the water. And so the path towards getting to the subconscious and releasing those beliefs in the subconscious, the only way to get there is by calming your nervous system, by choosing mindfulness, by calming all your muscles, your nerves, relaxing, closing your eyes, and allowing the energy to flow again. So, and reprogramming from that state is the most powerful you can be.
Which, if you aren't doing like a hypnotherapy session and you're doing this on your own, it's what
Absolutely.
meditation brings you into, right?
Absolutely.
And if you can't do it on your own, which I rarely do self-guided meditations. I love Inside Timer. It's like one of my favorites.
Me too.
Breathe is another fantastic app.
Mm-hmm.
And I love doing guided meditations to walk me through that.
Absolutely. And it's not about like shutting off your mind. It's a practice of bringing your mind to focus. I think that's the biggest misconception. I'm not meditating and like going into a state of bliss every single time. I am training my mind like the muscle that it is to go back to focus on what I wanted to focus on versus being wild and running a program that it's been running since I was 4. Which is most of our thoughts are repetitive thoughts that are just running a loop. And like you said, our thoughts create our reality. And so our goal is to calm our nervous system long enough and train the muscle of our mind to focus and to relax so that we can have access to the subconscious mind, so that we can release the old beliefs. And I often teach self-hypnosis. Self-hypnosis is the process of calming your own nervous system, uncovering the beliefs and creating new beliefs from that suggestible receptive state. So you can create your own meditation if you like, add music to it and listen to it every night. You can fall asleep to the meditation. I highly recommend that you do. And in my hypno sessions, I ask that you fall asleep to what we did every night.
Okay, let's dive into that for a second, because I know for sure that hypnotherapy is not something that everybody knows about. And a lot of people, even if they've heard hypnotherapy, there can be some like voodoo stigma around it. Is it safe? Is it okay?
Yeah.
Worrying about who's doing it to you. You know, you're very vulnerable because you're opening yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
So there isn't a better person to walk us through this than yourself. So like, what is hypnotherapy and what is this process that you're taking people through?
So hypno comes from the Greek word, which means to sleep. So hypnotherapy is the act of calming the nervous system so that you can go to the place hovering right above sleep. And in that state, you're moving from your alpha brainwave, from your beta to your alpha to your theta brainwaves, that brainwave right before you're fully going into deep sleep. And in that state, that's when you have access to the subconscious mind. So it's not what people think, which is show hypnotherapy, right? Which is like, I'm going to get you calm and then have you jump around like a chicken or something. That's not what's going to happen. I often say that the people who jump around like a chicken are often the ones who want to jump around like a chicken. And so show hypnotherapists are very good at picking the right people who in a loose state won't mind, being a center of attention, for example. So we calm the nervous system. We go to hover to a place around before sleep. Then we do the therapy in that stage. So we ask your mind to take us to the root cause of X, Y, Z. While in conscious therapy, you may have certain memories. When you've opened up to your subconscious mind, other memories may come up. And, I think it's people often say, well, what if it's a memory that I don't want to see again? Well, I say you're not reliving anything, you're reviewing. And the truth is we must allow ourselves to be impacted by what is already impacting us. Just because we don't want to look at it doesn't mean that it's not already impacting us. And so if you're on a path towards freedom, if you're on a path towards really uncovering and feeling free, I'm not just talking about having a life of freedom. You can be, living the most free life on the outside, but on the inside, you feel like a prisoner of your mind, like a prisoner of your heart. And you could be living in a cell like, Nelson Mandela and coming out of there with a smile on your face. Happiness is absolutely an inside job. It has nothing to do with your outer circumstances, and your outer circumstances will reflect how you feel inside. So the more free you feel inside, the more you'll attract freedom. The more lovable you feel inside, the more you'll attract love. The more connected you feel in yourself, the more connected you're going to feel with others. That is absolutely the path towards achieving what you want. So hypnosis is about hovering just above sleep, doing the therapy, and then from that stage, letting go of the residue, clearing the path. And in my practice, I use neurolinguistics and somatic tools to really clear out the system. And then I use a hypnotic meditative voice to record a meditation, which really reprograms the mind in accordance to how you want to feel.
Okay. Who else wants to say amen to all of that? Right? Yes. I love it. I'm like, she's bringing it. And I just want to keep saying like, amen. Like so much goodness in that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, and that's what this is about, right? Like this is why the Freedom CEO podcast exists, is to talk about when we own our decisions, we get to dictate our life. And that puts us in control. And ultimately, when we feel that and it's not the control, there's a fine line, right? Of like trusting the universe and letting go, but also like the decisions we make have different consequences and they have different outcomes. And when we get to own that, there is real freedom in that. And it was so powerful what you said, that yes, many of us don't want to necessarily have to relive certain things we've gone through or even review, but by not reviewing doesn't mean that it's not affecting us, that it's not impacting us. And so many people do go through life because they've not addressed certain things that are going on and they don't feel free inside. And if they were to make certain decisions and make certain changes, they could experience that freedom on the inside. And so powerful what you said. So That's powerful.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, it's the process of unbecoming, right? That's the coming back to who we originally were at our core. That's really the work, is going back to who we originally were.
And do you have to be in person to receive hypnotherapy? Can you do it?
No. Yeah, I do mostly online. That was the gift of the pandemic, is that therapy went online and it allowed me to do the work that I love and I'm so passionate about through online methods. And, really, again, because you're not actually out of control at any point. If anything, you're more in control when you're in hypnotic state, because you are further into your subconscious mind, right? So we go through hypnotic states all the time. When you're driving, your hypnotic state, right? I always say you can open your eyes at any point. You just won't want to. You're going to be relaxed, but you can open your eyes at any point.
I love that. So again, like Dana's info is going to be in the show notes. So make sure you definitely look her up. It would not be cool of me to have you on the show if we did not talk about impact, because both of us impact entrepreneurs and lover of giving back in this world. And I would just love for you to share, why did purpose, changing lives, wanting to do good and helping others, like how did that become part of the fabric of who you are?
Yeah, for me, my inspiration came from my grandmother and my nonna. I have memories of being really young and her taking me to volunteer for the elderly, cook food, deliver food. I remember being like 6 or 7 when I was first doing that with her. And I just remember it felt so good. I felt so connected to others. I think it took the edge off of our differences, of anyone being better than another. And I think later in life I started to read into the science of it, understand what really that pull is up about. And I read a study recently that said that we have a brain circuit dedicated to generosity. We have a brain circuit dedicated to generosity. But I think the issue for most people is that we're constantly giving in every area of our life. We're giving to our families, our friends, our jobs. And so we're so depleted that to give to anyone else other than our immediate circle feels like really difficult. And so our job is to fill our own cup, to give ourselves that which we wish to receive from the outer outer world, give it to ourselves, and then activate that generosity circuit to live a more holistic, fulfilled life. And so for me, it's in my core. I just know that that is the path towards really living my most optimal life. And when I don't want to give, I know that I'm off balance. I know that I'm not giving something to myself.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing. The other thing that this is the last question, because Dana, she has book clubs, and she mentioned earlier that she reads every morning and she is a lover of books. So tell us, what are you reading and what are you learning right now?
Ooh, awesome. Well, I just actually I just finished a course in somatic and trauma therapy, which was something I'm very, very passionate about. I'm reading a book called Lighter by Juan Pueblo. I think I'm saying his name right. He's amazing. But I often have like multiple books on Audible going, and then multiple books that I'm also reading. And so,
Not surprised.
it's my job. I said it a long time ago. I remember hearing Zig Ziglar once say that if you want to be to stand out in your industry, your job is to know more than other people. Mm-hmm. So really, the information's out there. Gone are the days where you can't find the information. So you want to be an expert in your field. You want to be free. Then go find the information and learn it again and again and again and again. And so I'm committed to being the most knowledgeable I can. And so I'm going to hoover it up.
I love that. And what are you learning right now?
What am I learning right now? The last few months for me have been about uncovering trauma, truly, truly. And what I've learned is that we're all traumatized, and that there's no comparison between, let's say, a 2-tissue trauma and a 10-tissue trauma, if that makes sense. It doesn't matter how many tissues you've used in your life. Trauma, capital T or lowercase t. The experience of being alive traumatizes an entering spirit that comes into this world fully connected to all things. And so I guess I am learning acceptance and forgiveness and deeper levels of self-love, because we are like an onion and there's always another level with our name on it. And so it's not about the destination. It's absolutely about the journey. And so that's my path right now.
I love it. Super powerful, and it actually, it complements what you were saying earlier, right? Like when you look within and you're doing that deep work through self-love, forgiveness, acceptance, that's like where you experience the real freedom, and then you can live it outward, but it has to start inward. And,
that's right.
You're always a seeker. I think I would be safe to say, you're a lifelong student as much as you're also a lifelong teacher, and always evolving, but taking care of yourself first to grow, evolve, and give yourself that freedom internally. That's and right. It's what you exude on the outside. So I love you so much.
I love you.
To have you here, and for people to be able to connect with you. We are going to put everything in the show notes. So make sure you hop over to Instagram, put Dana in your DMs, send her a DM, get plugged in. And yeah, just thank you so much for your time today and sharing.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so appreciative, truly.
Thanks for tuning into the Freedom CEO podcast. If you got value out of today's show, I would love for you to leave a review, as it will help my show reach other people as well. You know what to do. Download this episode, click the like and subscribe button. If you feel like spreading more love, hop over to Instagram and share today's show in your stories. Remember to tag Shane Vidiata and the Freedom CEO. My DMs are always open, so drop me a line. I'd love to connect. Until next time, keep owning your decisions to live a life of freedom. Live a life you love.